please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
The rains may descend upon Mumbai within the next couple of days, while the rest of India may have to wait at least another week to get respite from soaring temperatures. The Indian Met Department has said that the monsoon is expected to progress well, while Skymet predicts that India will see its best monsoon since 2013. Let's cut across to my colleague Manisha Gupta, who's joining us with Jatin Singh of Skymet. Manisha, over to you.
Well, thank you so much for that, and thank you so much, Jatin, for joining us. Well, it has been good news, of course, is what we have been hearing in sense of the onset of monsoon and the progress as well. But, Jatin, there also are concerns of an uneven monsoon. What is your sense on that, and how are you really laying those facts out?
I think we need to calibrate it. When you say that concerns from us on AccuWeather are the same, actually, one, in every year, monsoon year, even a normal monsoon year or excess monsoon year, there are parts of the country that get less rainfall. Monsoon is never uniformly distributed, neither in time, neither in space. Okay, there is an indication that parts of southern India might get less rainfall. This is in the region of basically North Karnataka. But that is it. Otherwise, I think the monsoon should be fairly good, well spread, both in time as well as space. And probably the best monsoon we've had, hopefully, since 2013.
All right, that clearly is good news. But Jatin, also come in on the forecast for the progress of monsoon from here on, from Andaman Nicobar to Kerala to Karnataka, and of course, finally to Mumbai, Maharashtra and beyond. What is the sense on that?
I think it's going to hit Karnataka coast very strongly tonight. Then it's going to go up into Maharashtra coast. I think pre-monsoon should start within a day or two. In Mumbai, drizzles have already started. The sky is already cloudy. I think the rainfall in earnest is going to start on the 6th, and Mumbaikars should be aware that the rainfall is going to be sustained between the 6th to 10th and 11th, and between the 8th and 9th, it could be quite heavy. So this is your first big rainfall spell that is coming, and I think the city and the citizens should prepare for it. It's going to be sustained. Rather than having it over a day or two, I think you're going to have rainfall for almost 4 or 5 days continuously.
All right, we are waiting and ready for that. But, you know, I also want to go back to the AccuWeather, and they have forecasted an erratic monsoon with the warnings of floods and droughts in certain parts of India. Have you taken a closer look, especially when it comes to places like West Bengal, MP, and of course, Southern West is a part of the world?
No, actually, then one has to also give some perspective. AccuWeather had said that last year the monsoon will be great because the El Nino had not appeared. Monsoon was -5 and below normal. AccuWeather had also gone in and gave a false warning this year during thunderstorms. There's going to be massive thunderstorms between, I think, the 8th or 9th, which never really happened. I wouldn't attribute too much importance. These are random figures being given out. I think that we can sit tight, wait and watch, and we should be on the positive side. There will be regional variations. There will be localized floods. There might be a localized drought or two. But on and all, this, as I said, this probably is the best monsoon since 2013. I'm saying that because 2013, I think, was 106 near about. 14 is a drought. 15 is a drought. 16 is -3. 97%, which was barely normal, and 2017 was below normal at -5. So I think if you take 14, 15, 16, 17, this monsoon is going to be the best of all, hopefully.
All right. Okay, so, you know, of course, while you have said the progress of the monsoon is going to be good, how soon would you see the respite from the high temperatures currently prevailing in many other states in India?
I think the situation across from north to south will stabilize after the 6th or 7th of June, where even Delhi is going to start getting pre-monsoon. So I think India needs to just hang on for another 10 days. Things will change. Winds will change, precipitation will come, pre-monsoon will come, the air mass will change. I think this is the end of it. 10 days more.
All right, Jatin, we'll let you go at that. So more than 10 days, and we perhaps will be looking at much better weather across India. And with that, it's back to you, Nitya. Good cheer when it comes to the monsoons, clearly.
With the indices gaining close to 1% in trade today, the Nifty reclaimed the 10,700 mark intraday after 7 trading sessions, while the Sensex surged 241 points as well. The banks outperformed today, with financials contributing 37 points to Nifty gains, while mid-caps reclaimed the 19,000 mark. Shifting gears from equities to crude then, global oil prices continue to slump this week as well. The Brent is now trading closer to the $75 a barrel mark, with the drop in prices is on account of the increase in US crude production as well as OPEC and Russia's plans to increase output. However, this slide in global prices has not brought any relief to the Indian consumer just yet. Why so? Let's take it across to Prashant Nair, who's joining us with his analysis. Prashant, take us through the big picture really here as to why we're not seeing any relief in petrol and diesel prices.
Oh, the question which I think needs to be answered is, even as global crude oil prices have come off, why are you and I paying the same or even more at the pump for petrol and diesel? So first, the basic crude math, right? I mean, so one drop in global crude oil prices approximately results in about a 40 to 45 paise cut in petrol and diesel prices. This is automatic, considering everything else is equal. And when I say everything, primarily I'm referring to the exchange rate. And this is also before state VAT. I mean, this is before state VAT because the VAT varies from state to state. Some states have got very high. Some could be sort of called more reasonable. So $1 drop results in about a 40-45 paise cut in petrol and diesel prices. What has happened recently? What has happened is that global crude oil prices are down about $4 over the last few days. The exchange rate has strengthened, which means India is an importer. Stronger rupee is good for an importing nation. And that also is in the bag, which is that rupee against the dollar is strengthened. What has happened also is that what we pay at the pump for petrol and diesel is more expensive by about 5%. So how does it square? You got the rupee, which is stronger. You got the global crude price, which is coming off, but we are paying more. The reason for that is essentially explained by this table, and the table will come up on your screen. The way the price at the pump is set is based on a 15-day rolling average method. So, we can look at the daily price change in global crude oil prices and say, well, it should reflect here on a daily basis, but that's not how it works. If you look at what, what prices were, say, 3 days back, I'm talking about global crude oil prices, you'd see it, you'd notice a $3.5 difference, a lower crude oil price. But if you take a look at the daily 15-day average rolling numbers, I mean, there is no change. And the reason is simple, pure arithmetic. We are taking a 15-day average period, and past prices were actually a lot higher. So the drop in global crude oil prices that you're seeing daily now, and thankfully it will continue, it'll take some time for it to feed into what you and I pay at the pump. So it's as simple as that. I mean, if global crude oil prices stay where they are over the next 1 week or more, or even the next few days, I mean, I think in all likelihood, what you and I pay at the pump also should start to automatically come off, provided everything else remains equal, primarily the exchange rate. So that is essentially how it is calculated. The thing to notice, of course, is also the taxes that we pay, and this is a constant graphic and numbers that have come back to over the last year and a half or so. In Mumbai, for example, the breakup on your screen is essentially what we pay for petrol. The price for petrol, the basic price for petrol, is about 38, 39 odd rupees or so. Everything else is pretty much taxes. The breakup is on your screen. The state VAT is about 16 odd rupees or so. So 38.5 rupees a litre is what the basic price is. What you and I end up paying is what, almost 85, 86 odd rupees now. So unless state governments or the central government decide to lower what they have to collect, or they want to collect from us on fuel, I mean, I think this figure will not change. The only reprieve or the only hope remains that global crude oil prices continue to come off, and I think that's what the government, for now at least, is betting on as well. Back to you.
Absolutely, Prashant. So commuters like you and me might have to wait a little bit longer to actually see any relief in petrol and diesel prices, is what Prashant is telling us in Mumbai. But we also learned from the government in New Delhi that it is not considering any action on fuel prices as of now. In fact, the government is betting on oil prices to cool off even further, which will give the government enough cushion of sticking to a status quo. Let's bring in Sapna Das, who's joining us with the latest details. Sapna, what are you picking up from your sources at the Finance Ministry?
Clearly, the cooling off of global crude prices has come as a breather for the centre over here. Having said that, this clearly indicates that they are in no mood now to take any immediate steps to kind of give relief to the consumers as far as the high retail prices of petrol and diesel are concerned. They're also indicating that probably they'll be comfortable with the $75 odd level of the crude price. If it settles around that range, then probably nothing much needs to be done immediately. they are also expecting the crude price, in fact, to soften further. If that's the case, then the story could be very different in the coming weeks. Last but not the least, also the rupee appreciation, may give some relief to the oil marketing companies. However, the big question still remains: what happens to the retail prices, which are already very high right now? If there is no measure taken at the government's end, then I suppose the consumers just have to wait for the oil marketing companies to, at some point in time take cognizance of the way the global crude is behaving and try and pass on that benefit to the consumers. We also need to keep in mind what the law minister had said last Wednesday, that the government is taking a long-term view on the oil price situation. So we still have to wait and watch and see whether, keeping that in mind, any kind of a formula or a dynamic pricing formula, anything of that kind, whether the government comes up with that at all or no.
But straight then to the big national headline of the day. There was voting in 4 Lok Sabha and 10 assembly seats across different states today. Lok Sabha by-polls were held in Bandara, Gondia and Palghar in Maharashtra, Kairana in Uttar Pradesh and Nagaland. Maharashtra's Palghar witnessed little over 19% voter turnout till about 1 p.m. It's a 3-way battle in Palghar between BJP versus Shiv Sena versus the Congress and NCP coalition. Now it's a 2-way battle between BJP versus RLD candidate in Kairana. RLD candidate is backed by the SP, BSP as well as Congress. Remember, this is strategically important for BJP as they lost Pholpur and Gorakhpur seats just a few months ago. RLD has complained to the Election Commission about EVM malfunctioning in certain booths as well. Meanwhile, on to the big breaking story of the hour. The Tamil Nadu government has ordered permanent closure of the Sterlite plant in Thoothukudi. Jude Sanith, our correspondent who's tracked every leg of this development this past few days, is joining us with details on this breaking news. Jude, thanks so much for joining in. And what exactly is the update? What are you picking up from the government order?
Okay, the audio line is a little patchy, but yes, like you rightly mentioned, there's been some communication from the Chief Minister's office of Tamil Nadu. Chief Minister E.K. Palanisamy has mentioned that in keeping with Jayalalitha's motto of running a government for and of the people, the wishes of the people of Tuticorin have been adhered to, and in keeping with what the people and the protesters, more specifically of that district, want, the government has said that steps will be taken to permanently close the Sterlite copper plant in Tuticorin. This is huge, especially considering that there's been over 100 days of protests within the state itself. What we are hearing is that a government order to this effect is currently being worked on. Initial steps are already being taken, and we are also given to understand that this happens just a few days after the Tamil Nadu Pollution Control Board had also issued directions to close the plant itself owing to environmental violations. So the Tamil Nadu government going on to clarify that they intend to permanently shut the Sterlite copper plant, and that's breaking news coming in at this hour.
Absolutely, Jude. We did see Deputy Chief Minister also indicate that, there will be no option but for the plant to be permanently shut down. And you did mention that the Pollution Control Board has been calling for it as well. So does this mean the end of the road as far as the copper smelter plant in Tuticorin goes? We're definitely going to see no chance of it functioning. This is, in fact, a permanent shutdown of that plant. Is that categorically become clear with this government order?
Well, at least with regard to the government side, there is, of course, every indication that this government intends to do something to that effect. However, some of the matter is, of course, sub judice with regard to whether or not the plant is effluent generating or not. There are, of course, observations made by the Tamil Nadu Pollution Control Board, which points to major violations on the environmental front with regard to the plant itself, with the Tamil Nadu government also following up on that and in keeping with these observations, stating that there is indeed a case for the permanent closure of this plant. Also going on to say that if that's what the people of Thoothukudi or Tuticorin rather decide, it ought to happen. But more interestingly, this also comes at a time when the electricity to the plant has been cut off so as to ensure that there is no activity within the plant itself. Remember, the expansion of the plant has also been put on a hold by way of an interim order of the Madurai bench of the Madras High Court. So even while there is, of course, a stay on activity and expansion of the Sterlite copper plant, the government of Tamil Nadu seems to be leaving no stone unturned towards ensuring that as far as its end of the bargain is concerned, as far as its side is concerned, there is well and truly going to be a permanent closure. But of course, the courts will have to take it forward with regard to whether or not this government order is binding on Sterlite copper.
Absolutely. In fact, Jude, for the benefit of our viewers, Sterlite Copper does run a 400,000-ton capacity plant in Tuticorin. And we did see, Jude, last week when you did visit Tuticorin, what was the scene there really? Because we did talk about, the death toll of close to 13, over 47 injured. The environmental calamity was large, and you were the one who was on the ground studying the impact of this. So take us through a recap of what exactly you witnessed when you were reporting from Tuticorin just last week, and what will this government order then mean, keeping that in mind?
Well, like we have been watching in the course of the last week, when I landed in Tuticorin, what we were met with were the scores of injured people, in addition to, of course, 13 who had died by way of one of the worst cases of human rights abuse in Tamil Nadu, wherein a group of policemen shot at a group of protesters, not just in one location, but in two separate locations within the Tuticorin district. One, of course, on the main road in the town centre, and, of course, at the district collectorate. In fact, we also got news a little earlier in the day that a police FIR report has named 2 government officials, both of the rank of a deputy Tahsildar, as having issued the orders to fire on the group of protesters. The FIR states that initial firing was, of course, done by way of warning the protesters and also by way of ensuring self-preservation of police forces, given the fact that there was every risk of that protest turning violent. In fact, the FIR names 2 government officials by the name of Kannan and Shekhar as having issued those government orders, with regard to police firing itself. So what we are seeing essentially is a face-off between the police and, of course, public that has continued well into several days after the initial incident itself. So, in continuation of that, of course, this breaking news coming in.
Yes. Thank you, Jude. It's definitely a huge blow indeed for Sterlite Copper. But let's bring in Palash Mukherjee from CSE, who's joining us for his initial reaction to the government order in Tamil Nadu. Mr. Palash, thanks so much for joining us. And we hear that the government has ordered permanent shutting down of that copper smelter in Tuticorin. Your initial reaction to this government order, pretty much in line, like Jude mentioned, with what the Pollution Control Board wanted as well just a few days ago.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, in this particular case, all the environmental norms had been violated, and the issue of EIA existed from not just like a year or 2 ago, but up to 5 years, 6 years ago. So this is something that scrutiny should have been done long ago, but right now, when the order has been declared, the consent to establish has been cancelled by the government of Tamil Nadu for this particular establishment. While this is this will help a lot in this particular case, there must be steps taken to see that something like this does not happen anywhere else in the country.
Absolutely, Mr. Palash. But do you think that this is pretty much the end of this? Because we are, expecting that the company itself will actually challenge this order. But as far as, the environmental impact is concerned, do you think that the government order, and we did see Deputy Chief Minister ask for it as well, this is definitely a step in the right direction?
No, I mean, in terms of the future of the company, perhaps that this is a step in the right direction, but it must be taken care that whatever harm to the environment and to the lives of these protesters has been done, that must be rectified. The polluter pays principle must be applied in this case, where the company must be pulled up not just for the environmental damage it's caused, but also the social unrest that has come down on the town of Tuticorin because of this incident.
Well, are we seeing the final say as far as the Tuticorin incident goes? Because we are expecting peace to restore. In fact, the last couple of days have actually been pretty peaceful in Tuticorin, is what our correspondent from there, Jude Sana, just told us a few minutes ago. So are we expecting then that the end of the copper smelter in Tuticorin, as well as peace being restored to the city permanently then?
Now, this will, I mean, like you said, I'm sure that the company will fight this in the courts. It depends on what the court's final verdict is. But as far as Tamil Nadu government and the State Pollution Control Board stand is, that's become clear by today's order, that they don't want this plant to continue anymore. And this is something that CSE has been asking for as part of its press release as well. I mean, there must be scrutiny on the circumstances under which the company was given the permission to operate in the first place.
Absolutely, Mr. Polash. Thank you so much for taking time off. And like he mentioned, like Jude has also been bringing us details of that government order. Definitely a huge blow indeed for Sterlite Copper. We are indicating that the government order has categorically said it will be a permanent closure of that copper smelter in Tuticorin, which has seen a lot of environmental impact in that area. And we did see a lot of agitation the past week. It's definitely a big blow for the company. But the government, as well as the Tamil Nadu government, as well as the PCB, standing strong in its demand for permanent closure of that plant. We will have to await reactions from the company. Remember, Sterlite Copper is run by Vedanta, so we will be awaiting confirmation, of course, from the company on receiving this order and what it plans to do next. That will be very crucial. Like we just mentioned, we're talking about 400,000 tons or being the capacity of that copper smelter in Tuticorin. So definitely a huge blow indeed for the company. But, like we mentioned, it's something that the Tamil Nadu government seems to refuse to budge on for the moment, at least. And on that note, we're absolutely timed out on this edition of Reporter's Diary, but stay tuned. Breaking news and updates all evening long only on CNBC TV18. Thanks for watching.
Brought to you